The signal came from the dark side of the galaxy, where few ships dared to travel. It was weak, broken, and filled with fear. The Valori colony on Keth 4 was dying, and they were begging anyone who could hear them to come and save them. The moon called Keth 4 was a strange place. Thick white fog covered everything, all the time. The sun never burned it away. The Valori had built their science station there to study the beautiful crystals that grew from the ground. They were peaceful people, tall and thin, with silver skin and large dark eyes. They had no soldiers. They had no weapons. They believed that knowledge was more important than war. Now they wished they had learned to fight. The Drakari had come 3 days ago. Nobody knew why they chose this small moon. Perhaps they were bored. Perhaps they wanted new prey. The Drakari were hunters. They did not hunt animals. They hunted people, other species. They believed it made them stronger. They believed fear was food. 3,000 Valori scientists and their families hid in underground bunkers. Above them, the Drakari walked through the fog like ghosts. 8 feet tall, 4 arms, skin like blackstone. They did not use guns or bombs. They used claws and teeth. They liked to hear their prey scream. Elder Visara was the oldest Valori on the moon. She had lived for 400 years. She had seen many things, but she had never seen anything like this. She sat in the darkness of the main bunker, surrounded by crying children and terrified adults. The lights flickered. The power would not last much longer. She had sent the distress signal herself. She had sent it to everyone. The Galactic Council, the trade unions, the military alliances. 17 species had the power to help them. 17 species heard her voice begging for rescue. 16 species did nothing. They calculated the distance. They calculated the risk. They calculated how many soldiers they would lose. The numbers did not make sense. Why send ships to die for 3,000 Valori on a forgotten moon? The Drakari were dangerous. The fog made fighting impossible. It was sad, they said, but it was not their problem. The 17th species did not calculate anything. Far away, on a ship called the Indomitable, a communications officer named Private Shin Yuna sat up straight in her chair. She listened to the signal 3 times. Then she ran to find her captain. Captain Quan Tai Wu was eating dinner when she found him. He was a large man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been a soldier for 30 years. He had seen too much death, but he had never learned to ignore it. He listened to the signal once. Then he put down his food. How far? He asked. 6 hours at full speed, sir. The Drakari. How many? Unknown. But the Valori say hundreds. Maybe more. Captain Quan was quiet for a long moment. The Indomitable was not a battleship. It was a light cruiser with basic weapons and a small crew. They had 1 unit of Marines on board. 12 soldiers. That was all. His first officer, Commander O Jinha, spoke carefully. Sir, the Council has already decided not to intervene. If we go alone. No backup, no support. If something goes wrong, something has already gone wrong, Captain Quan said. 3,000 people are going to die. With respect, sir, they are not our people. Captain Quan looked at her. His eyes were hard. They are people. That is enough. He stood up and walked to the ship's communication system. He pressed a button, and his voice echoed through every room on the Indomitable. This is your captain speaking. We have received a distress signal from a Valori colony under attack by Drakari forces. The Galactic Council has chosen not to respond. I have chosen differently. In 6 hours, we will reach Keth 4. Our Marine unit will drop to the surface and attempt a rescue. This is a volunteer mission. I will not order anyone to go. But I am asking. He paused. They called for help. We are the only ones who answered. That means something. At least, it means something to me. He turned off the communication system and waited in the Marine barracks. Lieutenant Park Do-hyun was already putting on his armor. He was a quiet man. Thin face, cold eyes. He never smiled, but he never complained either. His soldiers trusted him completely. They said he could walk through hell and come out the other side still fighting. Sergeant Yoon. Myrae checked her weapons beside him. She was shorter than him, but stronger. Her mind worked like a computer, always planning, always thinking 3 steps ahead. She had saved her unit more times than anyone could count. 12 against hundreds, she said. Bad odds. We have had worse, Park Do-hyun replied. Have we? He thought about it. No, but there is always a first time. One by one, the other Marines joined them. Corporal Baek Sunwoo, the youngest, carried a weapon almost as big as himself. Private Han Jin, the medic, packed her medical supplies with careful hands. The others followed. Choi Woo-jin, Lee Naeum, Kim Tae-young. All of them, 12 soldiers. 12 volunteers. Nobody asked why they were going. They all knew the answer. Someone was in trouble. Someone needed help. That was reason enough. It had always been reason enough. 6 hours later, the Indomitable reached Keth 4. The Marines loaded into drop pods. The planet below was hidden by fog, a white ocean of nothing. Lieutenant Park Do-hyun looked at his team one last time. The Valori do not know we are coming, he said. They have given up hope. We are going to give it back to them. The pods launched. 12 humans fell through the sky toward a world of mist and monsters. Below them, Elder Desara closed her eyes and prepared to die, but she did not know that help was falling from the stars. The drop pods hit the ground hard. The fog swallowed them immediately. Lieutenant Park Do-hyun opened his pod door and stepped out into a world of white nothing. He could not see more than 10 meters in any direction. The air was cold and wet. It smelled like metal and old stone. One by one, his Marines appeared from the mist like ghosts. They made no sound. Their boots touched the ground softly. Their armor was black and gray, designed to disappear in shadows. They moved to him and formed a circle, weapons ready, eyes scanning the white emptiness around them. Everyone alive? Park Do-hyun asked quietly. 11 voices answered. All present. No injuries. Sergeant Yoon Myrae checked their equipment. The fog was doing strange things to their technology. The radar showed nothing useful. Communications were filled with noise. Someone was jamming their signals. The Drakari, she said. They do not want us talking to anyone. Then we do this the old way, Park Do-hyun replied. Hand signals. Stay close. Stay quiet. He looked at the small map on his arm screen. The Valori colony was 2 kilometers north. 2 kilometers through fog so thick that death could be standing 3 meters away, and they would never see it coming. Private Han Jian, the medic, moved closer to him. She was young, only 24 years old. But her hands never shook. Her voice never broke. She had seen soldiers die in her arms and still saved the next one. Sir, she whispered, what do we know about the Drakari? Big. 4 arms. They hunt by smell and sound. They do not use technology. They think it makes them weak. How do we fight something like that? Park Do-hyun looked at her. His eyes were calm. We become the thing they fear. They started moving. 12 shadows in the mist. They did not walk in a line. They spread out just enough to cover more ground, but close enough to help each other. Every few seconds, someone would raise a fist. Everyone would stop, listen, then move again. The ground was strange. Dark purple soil covered with tiny crystals that crunched softly under their boots. The crystals glowed faintly, giving the fog a ghostly blue light. It was beautiful. It was also dangerous. Every step made a small sound. Every sound could bring death. Corporal Beak Sunwoo walked near the back, carrying his massive gun. He was only 22, the youngest Marine in the unit. But he could shoot a target from a kilometer away and carry equipment that would break other men. He was always smiling, even now. "I hate fog," he whispered to the soldier next to him, Private Choi Woojin. "Everyone hates fog," Woojin replied. "No, I really hate it. My grandmother used to say that ghosts live in fog, that they wait for people who walk alone. We are not alone." Sunwoo smiled a little. "No, we are not." They walked for an hour. The fog never changed. It pressed against them from all sides, heavy and wet. Sometimes they heard sounds in the distance, screams, growls, things moving through the mist that they could not see. Then Sergeant Yu Mairei raised her fist. Everyone stopped. She pointed to the ground. There were tracks in the purple soil. Big tracks. Something with claws. Something heavy. Park Do-hyun knelt down and studied them. Fresh, maybe 10 minutes old. The Drakari was close. He made a hand signal. "Spread out. Watch all directions." The Marines moved like water, flowing into position without a word. They had trained together for years. They did not need to speak. They knew what each other was thinking. For 5 minutes, nothing happened. The fog swirled. The crystals glowed. The silence was so deep it hurt. Then Private Lee Naang saw it. A shape in the mist. Tall. Wrong. It did not move like anything she had ever seen. 4 arms hung at its sides. Its head turned slowly, tasting the air. A Drakari scout. Naang did not move. She did not breathe. Her finger rested on her trigger, but she did not fire. Not yet. Park Do-hyun had been clear. They could not make noise. Not until they reached the colony. One gunshot would bring hundreds of Drakari down on them. The creature turned toward her. Its eyes were red and empty. It had no expression. It was not angry or hungry. It was simply looking for something to kill. Sergeant Yu Mairei appeared behind it. She moved like smoke. Her knife was in her hand. Before the Drakari could react, she had cut its throat. Black blood sprayed across the crystals. The creature tried to scream, but no sound came out. It fell to the ground and was still. Yoon. Mairei cleaned her knife on the creature's skin and looked at the others. "Keep moving," she said. Quietly, they left the body in the fog and continued. North. 30 minutes later, they saw the first buildings. The Valori colony appeared through the mist like a dream. White towers with curved walls. Large windows now dark and broken. Gardens filled with strange plants, now trampled and destroyed. And everywhere, bodies. The Valori dead lay in the streets. Silver skin. Large dark eyes still open. They had not even tried to run. They did not know how. Han Jian looked at the bodies and felt her chest tighten. These were not soldiers. These were scientists, teachers, children. They had done nothing wrong except exist in a universe that was not kind. "Focus," Park Do-hyun said softly. He put a hand on her shoulder. "We cannot help the dead, but the living are still waiting." She nodded and forced herself to look away. They moved through the colony like shadows. Somewhere ahead, the survivors waited in bunkers. Somewhere around them, hundreds of Drakari waited in the fog. The hunt had begun, but the Drakari did not know that they were no longer the hunters. Elder Dasara had stopped counting the hours. Time meant nothing in the darkness. The bunker walls pressed close around her. Thick metal that kept out the monsters, but also kept out all hope. Around her, 300 Valori sat in silence. Some held each other. Some prayed to gods who did not answer. Most simply stared at nothing, waiting for the end. The children were the hardest part. They did not understand why they had to be quiet. They did not understand why their parents were crying. A small girl named Lyra kept asking when they could go outside again. The Zara had no answer for her. The power had failed 2 hours ago. Emergency lights gave everything a red glow, like blood. The air recyclers were still working, but the Zara did not know for how long. Even if the Dracari never broke through, they might die slowly in the dark. She had heard the screams when the other bunkers fell. Bunker 7, Bunker 3, Bunker 12. One by one, the Dracari found them and tore them open like fruit. She did not know how many of her people were still alive. She did not want to know. The main bunker door was thick, the thickest in the colony. But she could hear the Dracari outside, scratching at the metal with their claws. They were patient. They had all the time in the world. They enjoyed the fear. They fed on it. The Zara closed her eyes and thought about her life. 400 years of study, of discovery, of peace. It would all end here, in a metal box, surrounded by crying children and the sound of claws on steel. She hoped it would be quick. Then she heard something different. Not claws, not screams. Something else. A sound she did not recognize. Sharp and loud, like thunder, but faster. Again and again, getting closer. Gunfire. But from what? The scratching on the door stopped. She heard the Dracari outside making strange sounds. Confused sounds. Then more thunder, and the sound stopped completely. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a voice came through the door. Strange, rough, speaking Galactic Common with an accent she had never heard before. Valori survivors. This is Lieutenant Park Do-hyun of the Terran Marine Corps. We are here to get you out. Please, respond. The Zara did not move. She could not. Her mind refused to accept what she was hearing. The Galactic Council had abandoned them. No one was coming. Everyone knew that. The voice came again, softer this time. We know you are scared. We know you have been through something terrible. But I promise you, the monsters outside are dead. Open the door. Let us help you. A young Valori scientist named Keth stepped forward. It could be a trick, he said. The Dracari might be using technology to fake voices. The Dracari do not use technology, the Zara replied slowly. They consider it weakness. Then what is this? The Zara stood on legs that shook with fear and exhaustion. She walked to the door control panel. Her hand hovered over the button. If she was wrong, everyone in this bunker would die. But if she was right, she pressed the button. The door opened with a heavy groan. Fog poured in, thick and white. For a moment, the Zara saw nothing. Then shapes appeared. Not the tall, four-armed nightmares she expected. These were smaller, compact. They stood on 2 legs and held strange weapons in 2 hands. Their bodies were covered in dark armor. Their faces were hidden behind helmets with glowing visors. Humans. She had heard of them. A young species from a small planet far away. The Galactic Council considered them primitive, aggressive, dangerous. They were not allowed in most civilized spaces. Now they stood in front of her. And she had never seen anything more beautiful. Lieutenant Park Do-hyun stepped forward and removed his helmet. His face was thin and tired. His eyes were dark and calm. He looked at the hundreds of Valori staring at him with fear and wonder, and he bowed his head slightly. Elder, he said, I'm sorry we could not come sooner. The Zara could not speak. Tears fell from her large dark eyes. She had lived 400 years and never cried. Now she could not stop. A small figure pushed through the crowd of Valori. Little Lyra, the girl who kept asking to go outside. She walked up to the humans without fear. Children were like that. They did not know enough to be afraid. She looked up at Private Han Jian, who had followed Park Do-yun into the bunker. Jian was holding her rifle, her armor splashed with black Drakari blood. She looked terrifying. "What are you?" Lyra asked. Jian knelt down so she was at the child's level. She removed her helmet. Her face was young, kind, with gentle eyes. She smiled softly. "We're humans," she said. "We are the ones who answered. Why did you come?" "Because you asked for help, but no one else came." Jian was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Other people make different choices. We made ours." Outside, the fog swirled. Sergeant Yoon Murray's voice crackled through the radio. "Lieutenant, we have movement. Multiple Drakari approaching from the east. They know we are here." Park Do-yun put his helmet back on. "How many?" "At least 50. Maybe more. They are testing us. Then let us give them a test they will not forget." He turned to the Sara. "Elder, please keep your people inside. Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone except us." "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Our job." He walked back into the fog. His Marines followed. 12 shadows against hundreds of monsters. The Zara watched them disappear into the white nothing. Then she closed the door and gathered her people close. For the first time in 3 days, she allowed herself to hope. The Drakari had ruled through fear for 10,000 years. They had hunted across 100 worlds. They had killed millions of beings from dozens of species. In all that time, they had never been afraid. Tonight, they learned what fear tasted like. The first hunting pack came from the east. 20 Drakari warriors, moving through the fog like shadows. They were confident. They had heard gunfire and seen strange creatures near the bunker. Small creatures. Soft creatures. Easy prey. They found Sergeant Yu Mirei waiting for them. She stood alone in a small plaza, surrounded by crystal formations that glowed blue in the mist. She did not hide. She did not run. She stood perfectly still with her rifle at her side. The Drakari pack leader, a massive creature with scars covering its face, stepped forward. It had killed thousands. It could smell fear from a kilometer away. But this small human smelled like nothing. No fear, no panic, nothing. It confused him. Everything felt fear when it saw a Drakari. "Small thing," the pack leader growled in its language. "You should run. Running makes it more fun." Yoon Mirei did not understand the words, but she understood the meaning. She smiled. "I am not the one who should run," she said. She pressed a button on her wrist. The plaza exploded. Yoon Mirei had spent the last hour planting charges under the crystal formations. Now they fell like giants, crashing down on the Drakari pack. Screams filled the fog. Black blood painted the ground. 20 hunters became broken bodies under tons of crystal. Yoon Mirei walked through the dust, reloading her rifle. 2 Drakari had survived, crawling from the wreckage with broken limbs. She shot them without stopping. "Team Beta, area clear," she said into her radio. Moving to position 2. On the other side of the colony, Corporal Beek Sunwoo had found a narrow corridor between 2 buildings. It was the only path from the western fog into the colony center. The Drakari would have to come through here. He set up his heavy gun and waited. They came in waves. First 10, then 20, then more. The corridor was too narrow for them to spread out. They had to come straight at him, and Sunwoo's gun turned them into pieces before they got close. The Drakari tried to climb the walls. Sunwoo shot them down. They tried to rush him all at once. His gun did not care about numbers. They tried to wait him out. He did not move. 6 hours passed. Sunwoo did not sleep. He did not eat. He did not complain. When his gun overheated, he let it cool for 30 seconds. Then started again. When Private Kim Tae-young came to relieve him, Sunwoo was sitting on a pile of Drakari bodies, eating a food bar from his pack. "How many?" Taeyang asked, staring at the corridor filled with dead monsters. Sunwoo shrugged. "I stopped counting after 100. In the northern fog, Lieutenant Park Do-hyun was hunting, not defending, not waiting. Hunting. He moved through the mist alone, following the sounds of Drakari movement. His armor made no noise. His breathing was slow and controlled. He had turned off his helmet light. In the darkness and fog, he was invisible. He found a Drakari scouting group, 5 warriors searching for a way to attack the bunkers. They did not see him until it was too late. Park Do-hyun killed 3 with his rifle before they could react. The 4th turned to face him, and he put a knife through its eye. The 5th tried to run. Park Do-hyun chased it through the fog and broke its neck with his bare hands. But he did not kill the 6th. The 6th was the group leader. Park Do-hyun dragged it to the edge of the colony and threw it into the open fog. "Go back to your masters," he said in Galactic Common. "Tell them what happened here. Tell them 12 humans did this. Tell them to leave this moon. Or we will hunt every Drakari until there are none left." The creature crawled away into the mist, bleeding and broken. Word spread through the Drakari forces like fire. Hunters were dying. Not in battle. In ambushes. In traps. In the darkness. The small creatures from the metal sky were not running. They were fighting. And they were winning. The Drakari war chief was called Bloodfang. He had led his people for 200 years. He had never lost a hunt. When his scouts told him what was happening, he did not believe them. 12, he repeated. 12 small things are killing my warriors. Yes, war chief. They call themselves Marines. They say they are children of a death world. What does that mean? The scout did not know how to answer. He had seen worlds where life was easy, where prey was soft and stupid. He had never seen a world that made its children into killers. Bloodfang stood and stretched his 4 arms. He was the largest Drakari alive, 3 meters tall with claws that could cut through metal. He had killed 10,000 beings with his own hands. "If these humans want a hunt," he said, "I will give them one they will never forget." He called all his forces together. 800 Drakari warriors. The entire army. No more scouting. No more testing. They would attack from every direction at once. They would drown these humans in bodies. As the Drakari gathered in the fog, Private Han Jian sat in the main bunker, treating wounded Valori. Her hands were gentle as she wrapped bandages and gave medicine. A young Valori male watched her work. "Are you afraid?" he asked. Jian thought about the question. Outside, 800 monsters were preparing to attack. Inside, 12 humans were preparing to stop them. "Yes," she admitted, "but fear does not stop us. We are human. We were born on a world that tried to kill us every day. Fear is just another feeling. We feel it and then we keep going." The young Valori did not understand. His people had never known a world like Earth. But as the first screams of the final battle began outside, he thought he was beginning to learn. Dawn was coming to Keth 4. For the first time in centuries, the fog began to thin. Pale sunlight touched the crystal fields and turned them into a sea of blue fire. It was beautiful. It was the perfect morning for the world to end. 800 Drakari came out of the mist from every direction. They screamed war cries that had made whole species surrender in terror. They ran with their forearms reaching, their claws ready to tear flesh from bone. They were death itself. Given shape and purpose, 12 humans waited for them. Lieutenant Park Do-hyun stood at the colony center, watching his Marines take their positions. They had spent the night preparing. Every approach was mined. Every rooftop held a shooter. Every shadow hid a trap. They had done everything they could. Now they would see if it was enough. Remember, he said into the radio, we do not have to kill all of them. We just have to hold until the transport ships arrive. How long? Sergeant Yumaire asked. 2 hours. Yumaire laughed softly. It was not a happy sound. Then let us make these the longest 2 hours of their lives. The Drakari hit the outer defenses first. Mines exploded. Bodies flew. But there were too many. For every Drakari that fell, 3 more took its place. They climbed over their dead without slowing. They did not care about losses. They cared only about the kill. Corporal Beak Sunwoo opened fire from his position on a rooftop. His heavy gun roared like thunder, cutting down Drakari in rows. Beside him, Private Kim Taeyong and Private Choi Woojin added their rifles to the storm of metal. For 10 minutes, nothing got through. Then the Drakari brought down the building. A group of them had climbed the structure next door and jumped across. They landed on the roof and attacked from behind. Sunwoo turned his gun, but he was too slow. A Drakari claw caught Woojin across the chest. He fell without a sound. Woojin! Taeyong screamed. Sunwoo did not scream. He pulled out his pistol and shot the Drakari in the face. Then he grabbed Woojin's body and jumped from the roof as the building collapsed beneath them. He landed hard. Pain exploded through his leg, broken. He did not care. He dragged himself and Woojin into cover and kept fighting. On the east side, Sergeant Yumaire fought like something from an old nightmare. She moved through the Drakari like water through rocks, never stopping, never slowing. Her rifle ran empty. She pulled her pistol. That ran empty too. She drew her knife. A Drakari twice her size lunged at her. She stepped aside, cut its throat, and used its falling body as a shield against the next attack. Black blood covered her armor. Her breathing was heavy, but she did not stop. Lieutenant Park Do-hyun found her surrounded by dead Drakari, still standing, still fighting. Sergeant, he said, fall back to the bunker. With respect, sir, no. That was not a request, and this is not a retreat. She shot a Drakari that came too close. I will fall back when we win. Not before. Park Do-hyun wanted to argue, but he understood. He felt the same way. They fought back to back as the Drakari closed in from all sides, dotted the main bunker. Private Han Jae-un heard the door crack. She had stayed inside to protect the civilians. 300 Velori huddled behind her, including Elder Desara and Little Lyra. Jian was their last defense. A Drakari arm punched through the metal door. Then another. They were tearing it apart. Everyone back, Jian ordered. Get to the emergency tunnel. What about you? Desara asked. I will hold them. You cannot. There are too many. Jian checked her pistol. 12 shots. Her knife was in her other hand. She looked at the Velori she promised to protect, at the children who trusted her. I can try, she said. The door fell. 3 Drakari rushed in. Jian shot the first in the chest, shot the second in the head. The third reached her before she could aim. Its claws raked across her shoulder. She gasped in pain but did not fall. Her knife found its throat. More Drakari came. She shot them. When her pistol was empty, she threw it at one and stabbed another. A claw opened her side. Another hit her leg. She fell to one knee, but she did not fall down. She kept her knife raised. She kept her body between the monsters and the children. She would not let them pass, even if it killed her, even if she had to hold them with her dying breath. Then gunfire erupted behind the Drakari. Corporal Beak Sungwoo limped through the broken door, his heavy gun blazing. His leg was twisted wrong. Blood covered his face, but he was still shooting. Medic needs a medic, he said, almost laughing. That is not how it is supposed to work. The Drakari fell. The bunker was clear. Outside, the sun finally rose over HFY. The fog burned away. For the first time, both sides could see clearly. The Drakari saw how few humans there were. The humans saw how many Drakari remained, but they also saw something else dot in the sky. Ships were descending. The Indomitable and 3 other Terran vessels had arrived. Reinforcements. Hundreds of fresh Marines dropping from the clouds. War Chief Bloodfang stood in the plaza, surrounded by his remaining warriors. He had lost over 500 Drakari in 2 hours. 500 to 12 humans. He looked at Lieutenant Park Do-hyun, who stood bloody and exhausted, but still on his feet. "What are you?" Bloodfang demanded. Park. Do-hyun removed his helmet. His face was calm. "We are human. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. Today, that meant the Valori. Tomorrow, it might mean someone else. But we will always come when someone calls for help." Bloodfang stared at him for a long moment. Then, for the first time in his 200 years, he ordered a retreat. The Drakari fled into the fog. They did not look back. 1 month later, Elder Thesara stood before the Galactic Council. The Great Hall was filled with representatives from 100 species. They had come to hear about the incident on HFY. "You told us humans were primitive," Thesara said. Her voice was strong. Her eyes were clear. "Aggressive. Dangerous. You were right about 2 of those things." She paused. "When we called for help, 17 species heard us. 16 calculated the risk and stayed silent. The humans did not calculate. They simply came. 12 of them against 800. They lost 2 of their own. Private Choi Woojin and Private Lee Naeang gave their lives for people they had never met." She looked at the human ambassador, a woman named Ko Eunji, who sat quietly in the back of the hall. "The Valori will never forget. When the universe abandoned us to darkness, humanity walked out of the mist." She bowed her head. "Thank you." In a hospital on Earth, Private Han Jian woke to find little Lyra sitting beside her bed. The Valori child was holding a flower she had picked from the garden outside. "You came a long way," Jian said weakly. "You came farther," Lyra replied. Jian smiled. Her wounds still hurt. She would carry scars for the rest of her life. But when she looked at the child she had saved, she knew it was worth it. It was always worth it. That was what it meant to be human.